Huh. I don't know why I wasn't out of the stream. I wasn't expecting to be back today at all, but we are going to watch this together. Excuse me, and I'm still losing my voice, so I'll wait for a few people to come in here because I was just watching this video, and I'll explain once there's a few people in here. Once there's a few of you guys in here, let me actually share this for a second. If anybody even comes in here for this, because they might not be interested in all reality. All right. Okay. All righty then. Where's my... Hold on 1 second. I need to go. Hey, Polka Dot Suzanne. It's going to be a rather quick one, but all right, people are coming in. This might not be of interest to everybody, so if you're looking for a live where anything but this is being discussed, any drama, this ain't the live for you. It ain't the one. Dude, it's thundering. Did you guys just hear that? Ooh, it is thundering. I had no plans, obviously, of going live again today, but I was just watching this video. I was going to do a pre-recorded one, and then I figured, you know what? I got a little time. I'll just go live. It's probably easier than me sitting here recording and then doing commentary. But hold on. I'm just trying to put my AirPods back in their case. All right, so let's just get into this. Hello, everybody. I see you all. I follow this channel. It's called True Crime Circus. And this guy, Drip Drop, I like his channel. So this isn't an attack on him or anything like that. I've been following his coverage specifically on this case for quite a while now. I've pretty much watched any videos he's put out on this case. So I wanted to go over this one, though, because his whole theory, it seems like there's a lot more people trying to say that this guy is innocent. All right, so could you stop playing with the bowl, dude? It's like kind of loud and distracting. All right, so hold on a second. I'm just going to play his video and obviously pause for commentary because that's the whole point of this. But it seems like there's more and more people trying to say that this guy is like innocent, or at least coming up with theories, because they're basing all of this off of the fact that off that arrest affidavit, right? And the evidence that they have shared with us. But these people are forgetting that there's a lot of evidence that they haven't shared with us. So I was just listening to this and I'm like, oh man. All right. So I'm just going to start playing it. Hopefully he doesn't strike me. Let me go back to the beginning.
But then he
go all the way back. And again, this is no disrespect to this guy. I do appreciate his work that he puts into his videos. I like him. I like his channel. I started watching his channel a long time ago. He really just started off mostly posting, what do you call it? Really, Ovi, you want to go outside while it's pouring rain? Okay. All right. That's an oddity. Anyway, I started watching his channel. He posted mostly, for the most part, I think he posted like interrogation videos. And then he started doing commentary. I know I'm losing my voice, so I don't know how this is going to not be that long, clearly. Come on, dude. My God, my internet sucks. Probably because it's storming right now. Hey. So anyway, yeah, there's a lot of people like trying to, I don't know, they're trying to make it like this guy might be innocent, which he very well might be, right? Because we're all innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. So he very well could be innocent, you know? Just the evidence that they do have to me is pretty convincing. But again, the arrest affidavit, the probable cause affidavit only has to show enough probable cause for them to arrest them, since this is like such a big thing, you know, where the burden of proof in a death or a potential death penalty case is like extremely high. And so, you know,
But then he was dumb enough to return to the crime scene at 9 a.m. And then his cell phone pinged on the 14th.
It finally starts playing and not in the area where I needed it to play. Hold on. My internet is like sucking hardcore right now. Oh my God, it won't even let me drag the goddamn thing over. This is why I'm not a true crime YouTuber. But I put my true crime on hat today. All right. So, you know, I don't know. I think they're just, everybody's speculating, but I don't think all the evidence they have is included in this arrest affidavit. I guess this is what I was trying to say. So once my stupid internet finally decides to play, but I think throwing crazy conspiracy, the cartel shit. I mean, people are just going too far. It's like I have nothing better to talk about.
In this super special
In fact, I think this guy actually, and that's why I like him, is because like he really just deals in like facts and not too much of the speculation. And if he's dealing with speculation, like he lets it be known, so, or if he's theorizing, he lets it be known. So, I do appreciate that. He's not just like clickbaiting. But all right, I don't know what's up with his whole getup, but I guess maybe he just doesn't want his identity known.
Episode, we're going to discuss Dylan Mortensen, Jack Decor, and Bryan Kohberger's possible innocence.
And I say impossible. Jack Decor, I believe, is one of the girl's ex-boyfriends.
There's going to be a lot of booms. You're going to need to stay focused and listen to the words I say.
I give him a lot of credit for getting this whole get up on every time he records videos.
This is going to be a very educational episode, and I believe you're going to learn quite a few things during this presentation. Without further ado, let's jump right into this episode and see what I have to say for myself this time. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Crime Circus. My name is Drip Drop, and I'll be your host as always. In this video, you might actually learn a thing or two about Moscow, Idaho, and the case against Bryan Kohberger. 4 college students were brutally slain just outside of the University of Idaho on November 13th, 2022.
It's pretty crazy the way he does his makeup. It looks like his eyes are like sagging down.
Possibly just after 3 a.m. I think there's good reason to believe that the original timeline that we were told between 3 and 4 a.m. was actually correct.
I don't know what he's talking about there because on the arrest affidavit, I just looked at it. That is the original, that is the timeline. So I don't know what he's saying there.
Check out this body footage for a refresher here. This footage right here is from approximately 3:12 a.m. on November 13th.
Pay attention to where this arrow is pointing right here. I really don't know much about this. Excuse me, about this footage. I know it's 3:12 a.m. Okay.
All right.
Did you see what I just saw, ladies and gentlemen? Let's take another look and slow it down.
I don't know what's up with his whole getup. I don't know. He says, why did they mute it? The cop could have muted it. Watch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 people walking by. It's really hard to see, but 5 people walk by. And I don't know why it's so smoky. I don't know if that's his effect or something. I don't know.
There appears to be a scream, and these unknown individuals are running from the direction of the 1122 crime scene.
All right. First of all, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and it's a college town. And of course, there's people that are running, or walking in groups and stuff. Like, I don't know. When I was in college, man, I never went to bed before freaking 5 in the morning. Like, it was a rarity for me. But it could be 5 cats. Yeah. It seems like they're walking too. I agree.
That's important. This is really important, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, the police didn't even notice those individuals in this body camera video. We, the people...
See, to say that the police didn't notice them, like, where's your evidence of that? Like, how do you know they didn't notice them?
Did, because we're very observant. I don't think this seems to be much of a coincidence that random individuals are running from that house at the same time that the police seem to be right outside of the house, 1 street over, at the exact location that the FBI profilers were looking at the fire hydrant.
I'm not really sure how that plays into this, the fire hydrant, but I don't know if he's trying to blame these 5 people that were walking by. I'm not really sure how this ties in.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This is a real investigation show where we really investigate things. No clickbait needed here at Crime Circus. Other YouTubers and creators, take note. Always keep it factual, keep it real, and never lie to your audience. I would never lie to my viewers here at Crime Circus because the truth is important. The families deserve the truth. And that's what we're on the search for here at Crime Circus. The truth. The truth for those 4 beautiful souls that are no longer with us. And Bryan Kohberger and Bryan Kohberger's family also deserve the truth one way or the other. Anyways.
That's true. I mean, I can't disagree with him on that one.
The timeline. Later on, we were told that the crime took place between 4 and 4:25 a.m. Why did the time change?
A lot of people are getting really hung up on these like stupid details. I watched another video of his where a few of his videos, he's very hung up on the fact that the police said it was like a 2013 or something, and it ended up being a 2015 Hyundai Elantra, or vice versa. I forget which way it went, but they're getting they're like so hung up on that. Like, why were the police misleading us by telling us the wrong car? And it's like, well, maybe it was just a typo. You know what I'm saying? In their bolo. Maybe it was just a typo and it went out to the news like that. And it was, you know what I'm saying? It was an accident, which, you know, I know, I don't know if people realize this, but like police are people too. They're just humans and they can make errors. And I don't really think that detail is the worst of things. I mean, the 2013 and 15 look pretty similar. So, I mean, it's kind of crazy that people are getting really hung up on that.
Let's go back to my theory about Bryan.
And the time changed too. I mean, and in reality, when they first started investigating, they might have thought that it happened at a certain time. And then as they did more investigating, they figured out, no, it was this time. You know, I mean, when people hear these changes in the story, you know, it's like they think that it's like the police are hiding something. They're lying to us. And it's like, I don't know, you know, things can change as an investigation proceeds. So I don't find that all that crazy.
Bryan Kohberger being the Doordash driver.
Okay. This is the part where we need to make a video about this. Let's go.
And 4:25 a.m. Why did the time change? Let's go back to my theory about Bryan Kohberger being the Doordash driver.
Okay. So he has a theory about Bryan being the Doordash driver. When I first heard about the Doordash delivery and all this shit, I was like, you know, how coincidental is it that she got a Doordash delivery and this guy showed up at the very same time? Like, what's the chances? It says that she got the Doordash delivery around 4 a.m. Said everybody was in bed pretty much except for Xana, because she got a Doordash delivery at 4 a.m. Okay. So I remember, I did think that at first, but then once I really read the arrest affidavit, which I'll show you guys just to prove my point here, but let me just let this play for 2 more seconds and then I'll show you guys.
I still think Bryan Kohberger was the Doordash driver. Nothing's changed. Some people have told me I was wrong. I have not been proven wrong about Bryan Kohberger being the Doordash driver. Anonymous sources cannot be trusted as fact. Random YouTubers making claims cannot be taken as fact.
And I totally agree with him there. Totally agree with him there.
Unless it's in court documents or police reports, it's not factual.
Okay, so let's look at the police report for a second and that, okay? Now, hold on a second. I want to show you guys this. I wrote a comment below, but I'll just show you guys the police documents. I have them pulled up already. Okay. Hey y'all, what mess is this? It's not a mess. I'm just kind of debunking some, not really, well, I guess debunking it in a sense. All right, so I think this is where it is. Hold on 1 second, actually. Let me just make sure it's actually pulled up on here. Oh, all right, hold on a second. All right, so here's the arrest affidavit. So let me show you guys this real quick. We're going to switch screens and we are going to look at this screen. So here's the arrest affidavit document. And if you go down, it, goes through the whole night of, not the night, it goes through the whole thing. Notice there's a redacted page on there too. So there's more information in this thing than we even know of. Just want to point that out too. I don't know what that information is clearly because it's redacted. So there's definitely some information that was given here, that we don't know about. So let me just go down. Hold on. I'm trying to find the exact spot. I should have brought that up. Okay. The grub truck, it talks about how they went to the grub truck. DM and BF both made statements during interviews that indicated the occupants of the residence were home by 2 a.m. and asleep or at least in their rooms by approximately 4 a.m. This is with the exception of Kernodle, who received a DoorDash order at the residence at approximately 4 a.m. And then it says in parentheses, law enforcement identified the DoorDash delivery driver who reported this information. Okay. So in my opinion, now I could be wrong, but I feel like why driver? Information, it makes me think that the DoorDash driver probably saw on the news that there was, this murder happened at this house, and they probably volunteered the information that, hey, I made a delivery to that house at X time. Maybe he had information like he saw another car in the area or something, he or she, because they don't specify whether the DoorDash delivery person was a he or a she. Okay, so the delivery was around 4 a.m. Now, remember, they had cameras in this area. So if you go on in the arrest affidavit, right, and you start reading about the cameras, hold on, let me just go down. I'm going to pass all of this. If you look at the information in the arrest affidavit about the videos here, right here, a review of footage from multiple videos obtained from the King Road neighborhood showed multiple sightings of suspect vehicle number 1 starting at 3:29 a.m. and ending at 4:20 a.m. These sightings show suspect vehicle 1 makes an initial 3 passes by the King Road residence and then leave via Walenta Drive. Based off my experience as a patrol officer, this is a residential neighborhood with very limited number of vehicles that travel in the area during the early morning hours. Upon review of the video, there are only a few cars that enter and exit this area during this time frame. Okay, so here we go. Suspect vehicle could be seen entering the area a 4th time. So they had already made 3 passes, right? The 4th pass was at 4:04 a.m. So in this document, the DoorDash delivery was already made at this point in time. Okay. And he's pretty much, Bryan is in his car circling the area. Okay. It could be seen driving eastbound on King Road, stopping and turning around in front of 500 Queen Road, number 52, and then driving back westbound on King Road. When suspect vehicle 1 is in front of the King Road residence, it appeared to unsuccessfully attempt to park or turn around in the road. The vehicle then continued to intersect to the intersection of Queen Road and King Road, where it could be seen completing a 3-point turn and then driving eastbound again down Queen Road. Suspect vehicle number 1 is seen departing the area of the King Road residence at approximately 4:20 at a high rate of speed. Okay. So he was last seen making a 3-point turn. They think he parked after that. And then 20 minutes later, less than 20 minutes later, he was seen leaving, the area. And then that was the last time he was seen until whenever it was that they saw his car again, okay? Later on in this document, they talk about the phone evidence, okay? And I'm not sure exactly where that is, but just take my word for it because I just looked at this. They talk about the the phone evidence and how they subpoenaed his, records, and they had seen him there multiple times. His phone was, turned off, whatever, all that stuff. That really doesn't have much to do. So that's why I'm not going to show you guys. My whole point is that they also speak about how they couldn't really establish any communication between him and any of the subjects in the house or the victims on his, on his phone. So, oh my God, that just scared the shit out of me. Sorry, I just heard my phone vibrating. So to me, that kind of tells me that, you know what I'm saying? That like, if he was the DoorDash driver, why would they later in the document be wondering and they, why how he's connected to these people? Because if he was the DoorDash driver, there's really no reason for them to hide that in this document, to hide it from the public. What is that? How's that going to change the case? At least it'll establish a connection for the victims and people won't be speculating. Prior to this document coming out, the law enforcement held a press conference. And in that press conference, they cleared certain suspects, one of them being the guy that was at the grub truck, the driver who brought the two girls home, Maddie and the other girl. Sorry, I can't think of her freaking name right now. That's why I'm not a true crimer. But, they cleared like 4 or 5 people in that press conference. And the reason I think that they were doing that was because, those people were getting a lot of attention on the news and everything else, from the public. And I think it was probably just to stop all this speculation and just clear their names, which is another thing that this guy says in another video. And a lot of people have been saying, they're like, they didn't even look at any other suspects in this case. They didn't look at anybody else. They were laser focused on Bryan Kohberger. Obviously, they did look at other suspects. They have to. They cleared all these other people. So obviously, at one point in time, in order to clear people, those people have to be suspects. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just how it works. So, I mean, in my opinion, this whole theory that he's laying out here is based on this guy being the DoorDash driver. But in my personal opinion, I just don't think that he was the DoorDash driver. I did at one point in time, but, upon looking this out, looking at all of this again, I just don't think that he can be. Okay. And again, this is only based on what's in this report, not other people's words or anything like that. So, all right, let's go back to his video. Just want to lay that out there because like your whole theory falls apart if you're thinking that he was a DoorDash driver. It just doesn't even make sense. So hold on. Just gotta share this. All right, back to his video. And I like this guy. Like, I'll get the whole facade and the thing, the getup he has on. He makes good videos.
I'll tell you the factual information right here and right now. And if it's a theory, I'll tell you it's a theory. It's a theory that Bryan Kohberger is the DoorDash driver because it makes perfect sense and that he became a patsy. And it makes perfect sense.
It doesn't make perfect sense though, because the cops would have no reason to hide the fact that the guy was the DoorDash driver. He's going to get into some crazy shit in a second, but it doesn't make sense because why would they hide that fact from us? That would clear up a lot of stuff if he was the DoorDash driver. So I don't know.
It's because Bryan Kohberger was possibly delivering Jack in the Box in the early morning hours.
So the only Jack in the Box that is open, and then again, it might just be another coincidence, but the only Jack in the Box that's open is in Pullman, Washington. And this is why I thought that he was the DoorDash driver in the very beginning, because I did research and I actually went on DoorDash to see what Jack in the Box restaurants were actually open at that time at night. And the only one is the one in Pullman, Washington, which is where he was from. But I just think it's a coincidence, honestly.
He got there, the door was wide open.
When you travel out of state to like these smaller, like I know for me, Long Island, because here it's just so densely populated. There's like shit everywhere. Like, we don't really have, I don't know if you look at the map, right? If you look at a map of like a state like Pennsylvania or Idaho, there's like little towns and then there's like a lot of space, like dead space, so to speak, between the little towns. And then there's another little town. You know what I'm saying? Like here, there's probably like 4 or 5 Wendy's I could go to within like a 5-mile radius of my house, but there, if the one town is, something's closed, there's a lot of like crossover between the towns, like the one town might have more than the little town, you know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of times that people have to travel from town to town if they're close by with each other, where like here, you really don't have to do that because mostly everything you need is like within your town. You know what I'm saying? So it depends on like what's going on in that town, whether they have food, restaurants and shit like that are open really late. Whereas, I don't know. It goes by the little towns. I don't know where I was going with that, but
He went in.
I guess where I was going was that a lot of people from those two towns are probably constantly going back and forth between those two towns. You know what I'm saying?
He possibly saw a BLOODY mess, and the red substance was all over the place. There was so much red substance that it was even leaking through the floor and the wall to the outside of the building. In the arrest affidavit, Dylan Mortensen reported hearing an unknown man say, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." Like I said previously, that was most likely the Doordash driver, aka Bryan Kohberger, walking in through an open door. He saw the mess. He quite possibly saw Xana laying on the floor injured and clinging on to the last breaths of her life from when she was stabbed and injured at approximately 3:12 a.m.
Dude, this is a fucking stretch right here. Meanwhile, it says in the arrest affidavit, I just realized this, he's saying at 3:12 a.m. That's impossible because it says in the arrest affidavit that the Doordash came at 4 a.m. Okay, so that this doesn't even make sense just based on the timeline that's laid out in the arrest affidavit. This body cam footage where there's allegedly a scream heard, which could be literally anybody screaming. You know what I'm saying? It could even be an animal. If you ever heard like a raccoon screech, it sounds like a person at night, like screaming. Like, so it really could literally be anything. I don't know what other kind of animals they have there, but I'm sure they have like coyotes and fucking all sorts of animals. We don't have those here, but I would imagine like some animals make screeching noises in the middle of the night. I hear them here, and it could very well be mistaken for a scream or something.
This would have been about 48 minutes later after the crime.
So what he's saying is that Bryan Kohberger was the DoorDash delivery driver. He walked into the crime scene, saw everybody murdered, right? And then like saw all the blood and then ran out. It's a little much of a stretch here. It's a little bit of a stretch.
Allegedly, if you believe Bryan Kohberger was ever there in the first place. Bryan Kohberger could have heard Dylan Mortensen's door creak and crack and make a noise when it opened. He stepped out of Xana's room and saw an eyeball peeking out through the room. He was probably scared. Dylan Mortensen is a very tall woman, and she can possibly be intimidating to some men.
Dude.
Not every man is an alpha. There's betas among us. And we're not all heroes. Not everybody could have stuck around to try to save lives.
No, but they could have left and called 911.
Not everybody would have called 911 right then and there on the spot.
No, but they might have left and then called 911. This was Jodi Arias' defense. Like when she was questioned in court, they were like, her whole story at the beginning was that, I'm sorry, not in court, in her interrogation. Her whole story in her interrogation was that, these two ninjas came into Travis's house and they killed him, and then they left, but they left her living. And then she just got so scared that she ran out of the house and left him laying there. And when the detective asked him, why she didn't call 911, she didn't really have an answer for that. So you don't just drive and continue on with your life after seeing a bloody mess and a savage, brutal beating. That doesn't even make sense, dude.
Yeah, you watching this video right now. Don't be arrogant. You're not necessarily going to be a hero in that situation.
All right. See, that's not arrogance. That's just common sense, dude. Like, I might not have stuck around, but you damn Skippy, I would have ran out of the house, got in my car, got myself to safety, and would have called 911 immediately. If I walked into a house as a DoorDash driver going to drop off freaking Jack in the Box, I would have fucking ran for my life. Hell yeah. I wouldn't have stayed around there and tried to fight nobody, but I would have ran for my life, would have fucking dropped the food, ran for my life. And I definitely would have called 911 as soon as I was able to.
You probably would have ran out the back door just like Bryan Kohberger might have done. Bryan was in college studying criminals and law.
Which is more of a reason for the guy to call 911 if he saw something like this. I mean, come on.
He knew if he had called 911, the crime would have been pinned on him.
No. If you go call 911, it's less likely that the crime's going to be pinned on you in a situation like this. I mean, come on. Because again, everybody has cameras these days, and they would have seen that he wasn't in, if he was just dropping off a delivery, right? One of those cameras in the neighborhood would have picked him up on the camera and then would have seen him in there for 2 seconds, and that would have cleared him. So come on. This is crazy.
And he certainly didn't want that, just like none of us would have. I probably would have ran as well because I wouldn't be sticking around for the police to arrest me. I would have.
Dude, seriously? So you're telling us all right now that you would have walked in a murder scene and just would have left? You know what, dude? I think I would have taken my chances of being, having the finger pointed at me to save somebody's life than to just be like, yeah, I walked upon a murder scene and then just go on with my life like nothing happened. Like, I don't know, dude. This sounds a little far-fetched.
I bolted out the back door, jumped in the white Hyundai, and flew around that corner, hopping the curb. Okay, so Bryan was there and he saw at least one, probably two of the victims, and he didn't call 911. Well, Dylan was there too, and she also didn't call 911.
Okay, here's the difference. Here's the difference, right? You just said that he walked in, saw the victims dead, and called and the blood, and called 911 and didn't call 911. She didn't see all that. All she saw was a guy walking out of the house. This was a house that was known to be a party house where there was people in and out constantly, that allegedly the front door was left open because that's how much people were walking in and out. They didn't lock the door. So, I mean, she closed her door. It says it right in the arrest affidavit that she closed the door and that was it. Was in a frozen shock phase. So we don't know why she didn't call 911. We don't know that yet.
And in the arrest affidavit,
I like that little face right there. Look at his face like, hello. Wait, hold on.
call 911.
Like he's so sure of that shit with that face.
And in the arrest affidavit, this is what it says Dylan experienced in the house that night. Dylan Mortensen stated she opened her door for the third time after she heard the crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. Dylan Mortensen described the figure as 5 foot 10 inches or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows.
I mean, that's a pretty good description of this guy. Everybody's like so hyper focused on the bushy eyebrows part, but they're not paying much attention to the other parts of the description. 5 foot 10. Okay. If she's tall, then she might have based that on her own height, whether she was eye to eye with this person or not. And then, he isn't athletic. He's not heavy, right? He's not fat. He's not muscular. I wouldn't describe Bryan Kohberger as a muscular guy. I would describe him exactly how that's just described right there, that he's athletically built. What are you eating, Ovi? That he's, athletically built, but not muscular. I mean, that's a really pretty bang on description of him. And he probably is about 5'10", 5'11", 6 feet tall, maybe even, but it's hard to tell,
The male walked past Dylan Mortensen as she stood in a frozen shock phase. The male walked towards the back sliding glass door. Dylan Mortensen locked herself in her room after seeing the male. Dylan Mortensen did not state that she recognized the male. This leads investigators to believe that the murderer left the scene. Well, as you can see, there's a few red flags and alarms in these statements. This leads investigators to believe this is simply
sorry. Give me a second.
Some men in uniforms.
Wait, what? Hold on, I missed this.
Alarms in these statements. This leads investigators to believe this is simply a belief of some men in uniforms.
He's saying it's a belief of, I guess, the cops. I don't know. I don't know what that means.
It doesn't say it proves that the murderer left the scene. It's their belief. Dylan saw a male walk past her bedroom. Yeah, probably the Doordash driver. He thought he could be a hero. But when it came down to it, he just couldn't be a hero, so he ran. So Dylan Mortensen was so terrified. She was in a shocked phase. She was frozen in fear. She locked herself in her room. She did everything.
A shocked phase, in my opinion, doesn't necessarily mean that she was in fear. It could have just been shock because she saw a guy that she didn't know walking through the house, and maybe she was shocked that one of her roommates had a guy in the house that she might have been like messing around with. Like, you know what I'm saying? Could have meant anything. They don't really elaborate on that. So like, I don't know. The speculation with that also just way out of control.
Except call 911. What did she have to hide? There's other people in this case that have a lot of questions I'd like to ask them. Jack DeCour really does need to answer some serious questions.
So now we're going to start speculating about the ex-boyfriend.
Lately, everybody's been wondering, what's Bryan Kohberger's alibi? Why does he need more time to come up with an alibi?
That's a good question. Why does he need more time to come up with an alibi? I mean, shit, if you know where you were and what you were doing at that time of night, you know, if you have an explanation for your car driving past the house, you know, 3 times and then parking, then, you know, what more is there to that?
You don't even know Jack DeCour's alibi. Kaylee and Maddie called
Was he not cleared, the ex-boyfriend?
Jack DeCour many times right before they passed. In fact, if the original timeline is correct, of 3:12 a.m. being the time that these people passed away, the phone calls abruptly ended just prior to that. Why do you think Jack DeCour didn't or couldn't answer the phone during the time that he was being called?
How's this? Brian's car was seen in the area, okay? Was first seen in the area at 3:30 a.m. So the 3:12 obviously could have been off for, you know, by a couple of minutes in the original thing. Maybe they saw him. Maybe they saw the car circling around the block and they got scared and they were calling because wasn't it said that she supposedly had a stalker? Maybe she thought it was this alleged stalker. Maybe Bryan was the stalker that she was talking about. Like, you know, this is just a little far-fetched.
And why didn't he call them in the morning when he saw all of those missed calls, knowing that Kaylee was leaving town forever that very day with Murphy?
Given the fact that law enforcement knows this and knows that he was called, I'm sure this guy was questioned and had, if he had an alibi, like I'm sure they looked into it. I mean, these people just think that like the law enforcement, they don't look at anybody else but the one suspect that they have, and that's just not the case. They have to clear other people always in every case. There's this show I've been watching. It's on here. It's called, I think, Someone They Knew, something to that effect. And it always starts off, right? Every show starts off with like this murder investigation, right? Somebody's murdered. And then they bring you through the whole entire investigation. And in every single episode that I've watched of the show, which was many, they always go through a whole entire list of people that they have to clear before they tell you who the actual suspect is. Sometimes they even tell you the suspect, but you don't figure it out until after they clear 10 other people and then go back to that person, you know, like the one person that they couldn't clear their alibi. So it's always a process of elimination when they're doing these investigations. Like, I don't know. This is just weird to me.
That's right. Kaylee was moving to Texas with Murphy. And she was going to Europe as well. All of this was going to happen without Jack DeCour. As you can see
Weren't they broken up?
Here in the arrest affidavit against Bryan Kohberger, Jack DeCour was the ex-boyfriend. He was not the current boyfriend. They weren't engaged and they weren't
They're always going to look at the ex-boyfriends.
married.
Sometimes the ex-boyfriends.
He was an ex-boyfriend. And now he's all over social media with what was Kaylee's dog, Murphy.
So that makes him guilty? I don't know. He took the dog. That makes him guilty of the crime, I guess.
Are you still following along
A college-age kid on social media? Get out of here.
here? Let's continue. Also in the arrest report, they talk about Bryan Kohberger's phone pinging approximately 12 times near the 1122 King Road residence. Well, I've got some news for you, ladies and gentlemen. They also say one of those doesn't count. They say Bryan Kohberger's phone pinged on November 14th in Moscow, Idaho, near the residence. But they don't believe he was actually in town on that day. You can't have your cake and eat it too, MPD. Either the cell phone pings are accurate and can be relied on,
Where does it say he wasn't in town that day?
or it's junk science. Don't tell us that you want to rely on them 11 times when it fits your narrative. But for the 12th ping, you say it doesn't count. These cell phone pings.
Hold on a second. Where does it say that? I need to see what he posted on the screen. Investigators found that the 8458 phone did connect to a cell tower that provides service to Moscow, Idaho, but investigators do not believe the phone was in Moscow on that date. The phone has not connected to any towers that provide service to Moscow since that date. So I guess what they're trying to say is not that he necessarily wasn't in the town, right? But it might have pinged off that cell tower, but his phone doesn't necessarily have to be there. They triangulate your phone. So maybe you should look into how they investigate pings and how pings work. He could have been in a neighboring town that used the same tower. His phone could have been roaming. That's another possibility. So he could have been in a nearby town and it just happened to connect to that tower. That doesn't mean that it's that they have to have their cake and eat it too. That's how pings work, dude. Your phone might ping off a tower, but you don't necessarily have to be in the same area for your phone to ping off the tower, because what they do is they use 3 towers usually. That's why they call it triangulation. And then they try to pinpoint your location between those 3 towers, right? And when your phone reaches those 3 towers. So what they did was that it pinged off the same tower, but he could have been just outside of Moscow, Idaho, and still his phone could have pinged out off the tower. So I mean, again, you're just kind of reading into this a little bit too much.
Near the residence, but they don't believe he was actually in town on that day. You can't have your cake and eat it too, MPD. Either the cell phone pings are accurate and can be relied on, or it's junk science. Don't tell us that you want to rely on them 11 times when it fits your narrative. But for the 12th ping, you say it doesn't count. These cell phone pings.
That's not what they said. They didn't say it doesn't count. They just said he wasn't in the town. But again, his phone could have been on roaming, or he could have just been in another area that used the same exact cell towers.
Are junk science. You can be hanging out in Pullman, Washington all day and never leave your apartment, and your cell phone can ping in Moscow, Idaho.
How do you know that? Show us proof.
They also deceptively referred to the phone pinging near the residence. Newsflash, ladies and gentlemen,
He sounds like Laura. Newsflash.
Moscow, Idaho probably has 1 phone tower, and it doesn't matter where you are. You can even be in Pullman, and your cell phone can ping off the same tower.
So he just disproved what he was saying right here. And again, you need to read about how they exactly ping your phone and how it leads to a location or a general location. They could tell from the pings between 3 towers which ping was the strongest, and then they could triangulate from there where you are within I forget the radius, but let's just say a 300-foot radius or something like that. So yes, your phone can ping, which is exactly why that 12th ping that you're talking about means that it pinged off the tower, but he wasn't in the same area. I don't know about the phone pings in Pullman, Washington, but this is how they locate people, because believe it or not, our 911 system is so archaic, it's so old that they don't use what is it called? Oh my God. They can't geo-track us, right? They can't use GPS from a 911 call on our phones, which they're trying to do now. They're trying to switch the system over, but they still triangulate. So if I was out somewhere and I called 911 from my cell phone, they wouldn't be able to trace my cell phone back by my GPS to find out where I am. They're starting to do that now in more places. I know here where I live, they still haven't switched over to the newer one where they can do that. But what they do is they use a ping. They try to ping the towers off and find out where the call came from. And they get it's not a pinpoint exact location, but it's like maybe a mile radius or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Where they can figure out that you're in this area, within a mile of this area, or a couple of blocks or something. And that's how 911 would be able to find people where they're calling 911 from. So if you're not calling from a landline, obviously, if you're calling from a cell phone. So I looked this up only because a while back, because the cops showed up to my house one time. This was like a few years ago. I was friends with Tiffany still. And the cops showed up to my house one night and they said that somebody from my house called 911, but nobody from my house called 911 that day. And they were like, okay, maybe it was a mistake. And I was like, well, how would they get my house? So like somebody near my house could have called 911 and it could have pinged back to my house.
So it's meaningless. In the arrest report, they also make reference to Bryan Kohberger's phone pinging on Farm Road back in August of 2022. Completely meaningless if he was driving for
Wait, what? Sorry, I have to re-listen to that.
same tower. So it's meaningless.
No.
In the arrest report, they also make reference to Bryan Kohberger's phone pinging on Farm Road back in August of 2022. Completely meaningless. If he was driving for Doordash, it would make sense. It was the weekend. Many people drive for Doordash on the weekend. It was about 11 p.m. And what do you know? There's a Buffalo Wild Wings right there on Farm Road. And as you can see on this map right here, Farm Road is nowhere near 1122 King Road that can be seen way over here. So why this is in the arrest affidavit, I have no idea. But clearly they're grasping at straws.
Wait, I'm so confused as to what he's talking about. Hold on. One of those occasions on August 21st, 2022, phone utilized cellular resources providing coverage to the King Road residents from approximately 10:34 to 11:35 p.m. At approximately 11:35, Kohberger was stopped by the Latah, or however you say that, County Sheriff's Department. As mentioned above, the phone was utilizing cellular resources consistent with the location of the traffic stop during this time. Farm Road, Pullman Highway. So wait, how is he connecting this to Doordash? I'm so confused. Is he saying that he was at the Buffalo Wild Wings? No, he could have. I think it's just to show that he was like heading in the area maybe, or somewhere in the area. I don't know. It's probably being used to just contrast that he's in Moscow, when he's near the house and when he's not near the house, his phone is pinging off that same tower. I don't know. I really don't know why that was included in there. But I think also because maybe as proof, because he was pulled over, they have evidence that he was in that area. Maybe it's like to assure that the pings are correct, because his phone pinged. And this is proving that he was where he was when the phone pinged, right? Because they have proof that he was in that area because he was pulled over in that area. I think that's what it's most likely being used for.
Completely meaningless. If he was driving for Doordash, it would make sense. It was the weekend. Many people drive for Doordash on the weekend. It was about 11 p.m. And what do you know? There's a Buffalo Wild Wings right there on Farm Road. And as you can see on this map right here, Farm Road is nowhere near 1122 King Road that can be seen way over here. So why this is in the arrest affidavit, I have no idea. But clearly
I think it's just to show the accuracy of the pings that they're receiving.
Grasping at straws, hoping something sticks. If I was the judge and I read this arrest affidavit, I'd say, what's the point? His cell phone may have allegedly pinged back in August on Farm Road. So what? That's not even evidence. Those are just words on a piece of paper that apparently a judge signed off on. This isn't evidence of any kind. If you think it is, leave a comment down below. Bryan Kohberger's...
This is why I left a comment down below. And as I kept listening, I was like, oh my God, there's just like too much. I'd write a book under this guy's video. I might as well just do a video. Not that he's ever going to watch this, but just in case.
Phone pinging on Farm Road way back in August. What do you think it means? It means nothing. Anyways, the knife sheath. Let's discuss it. In my previous video, I made a very small error. I said that Bryan Kohberger...
Right, this is so funny because I actually left the comment. So this shows me that he read my comment under the last video, because I am the one who left this comment. I don't know if other people did, but I know I did. I know 100% that I corrected this information. And listen to what he says here, but this is really funny because I left this, exactly what he's saying here is exactly what I wrote in my comment.
Daddy's DNA was found on the knife sheath. That was...
Hold on, let me rewind that so you could hear the whole thing.
Anyways, the knife sheath. Let's discuss it. In my previous video, I made a very small error. I said that Bryan Kohberger's daddy's DNA was found on the knife sheath. That was wrong. The official claim is that Bryan Kohberger's DNA was on the knife sheath, and they matched it to Bryan Kohberger's daddy's DNA from the trash that Bryan Kohberger threw out in his neighbor's garbage can. Either way, it doesn't really matter, and it's pretty irrelevant.
It does matter. He's like, this is a small mistake. That's not a small mistake at all. Because you're saying that that's a huge difference between his dad's DNA being on the knife sheath or his DNA being on the knife sheath. Because, there could have been an excuse that somebody borrowed his dad's knife or he sold it or something, and the person bought the knife online and they used it for the murder. But coupled along with all this other evidence, and that's a problem that people just don't look at. It's not like the one thing, or, the fact that he was there, or the fact that his phone was pinging, or he was seen on camera, or any of this. It's everything put together that makes the case, right? That makes the evidence stronger. So the fact that his DNA was found at the crime scene in the same place where his phone pinged, his car was seen on cameras driving by, makes it a way stronger case, okay? I mean, I don't know what these people don't get, but his dad's DNA, yeah, it's very important, because he was saying that, oh, well, they found his dad's DNA in the last video. So I wrote a comment underneath saying that's actually wrong. His dad's DNA wasn't on the knife sheath. They actually found his DNA on the knife sheath. And then when he was in Pennsylvania, they were trying to collect the sample by going through his trash. They found something of the dad's DNA in the trash. And then they sent it out to a genealogical database to get to find out that whoever's DNA was on the knife sheath, that they were 99.9% matched to the person who's, the dad's DNA. So that does matter, because in his last video, he was kind of ripping apart the DNA evidence and saying that it's like bullshit because the dad's DNA was in there. And then he was like, and they sent it off to this like crazy lab. Like, he was like, and I'm like, actually they're using genealogical DNA in a lot of cases these days. Like what was that guy, the Golden Gate Killer or whatever his name was? He was caught like that. They're using them to solve a lot of cases, all these ancestry type things. This is how they're solving a lot of unsolved cold cases these days. So he was kind of making it like it was junk science again, and I'm like, no, but you're wrong. But that's not a small detail, dude. That's a pretty big detail.
So that's a really small detail to nitpick. Bryan
Nobody was nitpicking. I was just giving you the correct information, dude, because you were giving the wrong information. And as you said in this video and every other video that you've made on this case, that you're all about facts and truth and, all this shit. So I was giving you the correct facts because you were giving the incorrect facts.
Kohberger's DNA being on a knife sheath at the crime scene is meaningless.
How is that meaningless? Like how?
They didn't even find the knife sheath.
I could guarantee that's going to be a huge bone of contention in the trial. Huge thing.
Upon first search. Somehow it magically showed up the second time they went to go look at Maddie and Kaylee.
Okay, and again, what he's not understanding here, if that's even the case, I don't know if it necessarily is, there's many different types of DNA, right, that they might not be able to pick up doing certain tests. Like, I don't know if people just think that there's only like one test that they could do for DNA and that's it, but there's multiple tests that they could do to find DNA. And, they might not have picked it up with the first test, but there's a different type of test that they could try where they can pick up the DNA, because there's different amounts of DNA. There's, somebody could leave a large amount like blood, but touch DNA is harder to find. Like, dude, you are just proving to everybody that you don't pay attention to like true crime or something. I don't know what's going on with this guy, but he's totally wrong here.
And there's been no discussion of there being any blood on the knife sheath either. So that's the
BTK was caught by his daughter's DNA. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was a guy here that was caught not by the same kind of genealogical DNA, but he was caught through his brother's DNA. It was a 20 or 30 year unsolved case that these two girls that were killed, and they found I don't know if it was sperm or something. They found it at the crime scene, DNA, and at the time when the crime occurred, there was no DNA. But 30 years later, the brother got arrested. The guy's brother got arrested on like some type of violent charge or whatever it was, and he had to give a sample of his DNA, and boom, they made the connection that it was a match. Then they followed the other guy around, the actual one that was the killer, and he threw a cigarette butt out the window, and they took the cigarette butt and tested it, and that's how they caught him. So, but they're doing other things with genealogical DNA, and it's not always like going to work, but they'll scan it through genealogical databases. So there's like these companies now that are doing that for the police. It's not the police themselves. They're like kind of being outsourced to these genealogical DNA companies that are, scanning through databases where people obviously submitted it for ancestry reasons. But this is bad.
Magical knife sheath. And if you made it this far in the video, leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think about the magical knife sheath. I've mailed merch all over the world, so certainly my DNA is in a lot of people's houses that I've never been in.
Okay, that's very true that your DNA, but didn't they also find a receipt or something in his house recently when they just searched? I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure I might be wrong here, so correct me if I'm wrong. I'd have to go look at this. But when they were searching his house and they seized his computers, didn't they find some type of receipt for the knife or something? Or am I like imagining things from Amazon? Some type of thing where it came from Amazon. I could be totally wrong on this, but I feel like I kind of remember hearing that. I don't know. We'd have to take a look at that, but let's just get through this video.
And briefly going back to the Doordash theory, if Bryan Kohberger had randomly entered the house through an open door and he was scared and he just wanted to help, it would make sense that he brought protection with him. And if he saw some really scary stuff...
What a coincidence. He came in the house, he saw a murder scene as a Doordash driver, okay? And then he dropped his knife sheath, and it just so happens that the people that died in the house were all killed with a knife that matches the knife that he was killed with. I mean, come on, dude. That's a stretch. It's like go gadget arms.
He might have dropped the sheath and ran. Or he could have been at a previous house party. Or he could have bought drugs at this alleged drug house. I know a lot of you out there...
He's going to get into this whole fucking cartel thing. I didn't listen this far. I think I stopped somewhere around here.
Want me to discuss the drug theory in Moscow, Idaho. There's a lot of drug use in Moscow, Idaho, ladies and gentlemen.
There's a lot of drug use everywhere, dude. Like there just is. There's a lot of drug use in my neighborhood. There's a lot of drug use in the neighborhood I grew up in. I mean, come on, dude.
2 of the victims' parents were arrested right around the time of the crime for some serious felony drug charges.
Okay, so why would a drug cartel go after their children at a college? Like, I don't know, dude. That just sounds a little far-fetched.
There's a lot of people in this case connected to some very dangerous people in the drug business. Drugs are bad, hugs are good.
Hey, get down!
Stay off drugs, ladies and gentlemen, and keep your kids off them too. They lead to nothing but passing aways. A sober mind is one of the best things on earth. You can even learn to get high in life if you're doing the right things and spending your time properly around the right people.
I agree with that.
And we can very possibly discuss that in an upcoming episode. But make sure you subscribe to my second YouTube channel, The Crime Circus Cult. Let's get back on track. The knife sheath. There's a lot of ways that knife sheath could have ended up in that home, and a lot more ways Bryan Kohberger's DNA could have ended up on the knife sheath, including being planted. There's a lot of possibilities. The knife sheath alone is not a smoking gun. The knife...
Right, alone, it's not. But when you couple it with everything else in this case, it's pretty rock solid there, dude.
Sheath just by...
I mean, shit, what a series of coincidences that would have to happen for this guy to be innocent. Just based on the arrest affidavit. Hold on a second. I mean, we don't know all the other details. That's not, I could say almost with 100% certainty that whatever was written in that arrest affidavit, that's only some of the evidence that they have. You know, they're not going to blow their whole load, so to speak, right, in an arrest affidavit and let the defense know every piece of evidence that they have. Why would they do such a thing and give their whole entire theory out so that the defense has, could come up with excuses for every bit of evidence? Like, they're just not going to do that. Sorry.
Itself.
Hence the reason they're fighting so much right now, because supposedly, this whole thing with his alibi, and I don't really fully understand it, but I know that they're saying that the prosecution hasn't turned over everything that they have asked for. I don't know. I don't know exactly what's going on with that, but that's why he's asking for more time. And I think he was actually, I saw some articles yesterday that he was challenging the indictment or something. So we'll see what happens with that.
Without any other collaborating evidence is actually more suspicious against others than against Mr. Kohberger.
So far, there's been no evidence that you've laid out that has made me suspicious of anybody else but him.
Just me thinking rationally out loud, I would think that Brent Kohberger would be much more likely to have a K-bar knife than Bryan Kohberger, who is a student on the verge of doing so many great things in this life.
All right, so in another one of his videos, he kind of goes more into depth about this Brent Kohberger guy. And if you don't know who that is, and again, sorry, I'm not paying too much attention to the chat. I'm just trying to get through this before I lose my voice completely. So this Brent Kohberger character, he was a guy who shot, I don't know if he effed himself, offed himself, or he shot up something at the school. If you watch the body cam footage where Bryan was pulled over with the dad in the car, they make mention of, this shooting that occurred on the campus or something like that. And he had like some crazy theory that this guy was, the one involved. And that's why he offed himself that day, is because he did the murders and they put a thing out on the car. I don't know. Look, I didn't really listen to it too much because I don't know. Don't think it's possible.
Brent Kohberger was military.
Well, anything's possible, but he's like Brent Kohberger. No, anybody could buy those military knives online. I mean, anybody. I could go order one right now.
Which means he was a trained passing away person. Bryan Kohberger was not a trained passing away person. Anyways, evidence. If they had any smoking gun evidence, rest assured, it would have been put in the arrest affidavit.
No, you're wrong, because again, I use the Jodi Arias trial as an example. Nobody, and I repeat, nobody knew about the gas cans until the trial. The fact that she brought these gas cans with her so that she could evade responsibility, or she could evade being seen on cameras stopping to get gas, because she drove, it didn't match her story. She claims she wasn't in Mesa, Arizona, right? Driving 500 miles from Yreka, California, all the way down to Mesa, Arizona, and then back up to Salt Lake City, Utah. And she didn't want to stop and get gas because obviously that would show that she was in, the area. So the prosecutor, Juan Martinez, he held this very close to the vest, and he didn't release that information until the trial. And it was like the bombshell at the trial, because, that proved right there. She stopped for gas cans. There was testimony from the person who gave her the gas cans. And then she filled the gas cans up and she didn't stop for gas. So how did she make it all the way from Yreka, all the way down to Mesa, Arizona, and then all the way to Salt Lake City without stopping for gas? She was trying to evade being seen stopping for gas. So that's absolutely not true, because prosecutors do that all the time.
The arrest affidavit is where they...
Again, the arrest affidavit is what you're calling the arrest affidavit was really a probable cause affidavit, and all it had to do was show enough probable cause. So just like when you're getting pulled over, right, for something, the cops suspect you of, they want to search your car. All they need is probable cause, right? So probable cause could be, well, your eyes look bloodshot, or I smell marijuana coming from your car, and that's enough probable cause for them to search the car. So
they put their best of the best information they have at the time.
Nope.
There was no talk about any of the victim's DNA, any of the victim's blood, or anything.
Right, because they didn't need to put all of that in there. They didn't need to put all of that in there. Clearly, the investigation was still pending at the time when that was written. So there was more investigation going on, because we've seen that. We've seen that they released the search warrant and all the things that they took from his house, which happened after that was released. So yeah, they're not putting every single thing in that.
Else. So we're supposed to believe that Bryan Kohberger was so intelligent that he didn't leave a single drop or a hair or anything other than the magical knife sheath, but none of the victims or
we don't know that, though. There could be more DNA evidence.
Anything made their way to his car, or the way to his car, or in his apartment. We're supposed to believe it was just magically wrapped up in his magical shower curtain and disappeared. But then he was done.
What? I thought they said he didn't have a shower curtain when they went to his apartment. thought that's what he said in his last video.
Enough to return to the crime scene at 9 a.m. And then his cell phone pinged.
Yeah, because a lot of criminals do that. They'll return to the crime scene to watch the police activity. In fact, what's that case? Steven, shit. Oh, I can't think of that guy's name. It's gonna kill me now. Steven something. He was going to school. Same thing. He was going to school to be an attorney. Okay, and he lived in this apartment complex. There was a girl there who was a very pretty girl, and he knew her from school. They had some classes together and everything like that. He ended up murdering her. Okay, and then he goes on the news and does an interview. And at the time when he's doing the interview, he doesn't know that they had found her body. So he finds out while they're interviewing him on the news, and he has like this total panic attack, and he's aiding in the search, trying to find her, and all this shit. A lot of criminals do that, dude. I mean, come on, true crime circus. You should know these things.
On the 14th, but we're not supposed to count that one.
And maybe he drove back by because he knew that he left the knife sheath there, and he wanted to go back and get it. Maybe that's why he drove by at 9 a.m. But more likely it was to see if, the police were there and, if anybody like found his, lovely work that he did.
That one was just an error. There's a lot of issues with this case.
What was an error? Hold on.
He was dumb enough to return to the crime scene at 9 a.m. And then his cell phone pinged on the 14th, but we're not supposed to count that one. That one was just an error. There's a lot of issues with this case.
No, they didn't say it was an error. You're saying it's an error. They said he pinged off the same cell tower, but wasn't in the neighborhood, which again, you then followed up by saying is possible. So.
Do you think Bryan Kohberger might actually just be innocent?
No.
Leave me a comment down below. Let's talk about this.
I mean, he could be. I don't know what kind of evidence the defense has to, what type of exculpatory evidence they're going to have, but it's possible. Anything's possible at this point.
Because I haven't seen any evidence to convince me that Bryan Kohberger is actually guilty.
Wow. Okay.
I need evidence, real evidence, evidence that matters.
Well, you're going to have to wait for the trial until that, until you hear that evidence, because that's usually how it works. If you watch any commentary about the arrest affidavit, every commentator who is, and this counts ex-law enforcement or anything that has commentated on this case, that was probably one of the most elaborate and well-written arrest affidavits that they ever read, because they typically don't include that much information in them. But yeah, there's more evidence, dude. You're going to have to wait until the trial.
And what was in the arrest affidavit really wasn't much of anything, just a lot of beliefs and opinions. And in my opinion,
no, there were some facts in there, dude. Like that fact, he was near the house. Fact, his car was seen on camera. Fact, I mean, come on, dude. His DNA was found. Those are facts. They're not opinions.
Opinion? Bryan Kohberger doesn't even have bushy eyebrows. I've seen YouTubers.
Really? Let's look at that picture again that he
in the true crime community that actually have bushy eyebrows.
Wait, what?
And in my opinion, Bryan Kohberger doesn't even have bushy eyebrows.
They're pretty bushy, dude. I mean, in this picture, they probably don't look so bushy because, anytime there's flash photography being taken and the light is being shined directly into somebody's face, it's going to make your hair look a little thinner. But I'm pretty sure if you saw him in person, his eyebrows would definitely appear a lot more bushy because you'd see all the shadows and everything from his hairs. So probably not the best picture to use as an example.
I've seen YouTubers in the true crime community that actually have bushy eyebrows.
Is he suggesting that somebody has the YouTube community did this?
Where were they on November 13th? I want to hear alibis. This case is important, and maybe together we can solve it. Also, Dylan Mortensen said the person had an athletic build. If she thinks Bryan Kohberger has an athletic build, then she'd probably say I was completely jacked.
Okay. I don't think he's understanding what an athletic build is. You don't have to be muscular to be described as athletic. In fact, I would describe my frame as athletic in a sense, because if you look at different types of body types online, it's a body type. Athletic, there's different body types, and athletic is just one way to describe that. I mean,
but I guess that's up for interpretation and personal opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Money. Like most things in life, it comes back to money. This open, unsolved case was going to cost Moscow, Idaho, and the University of Idaho a lot of money. This case needed to be solved.
Here's the thing. If there was any exculpatory evidence that was that convincing, okay, that was out there, that proved he didn't do it, he wouldn't be going through this like whole trial. They would have to release him. That's happened before too. So in cases, so I mean,
needed the perfect patsy, and they may have found him. But he's smiling in court, so
yeah, saying the patsy.
he seems to know a secret that's going to save him from this case.
He's not smiling in court. He's smiling at his lawyer to say hello. That's all he's doing.
Because if you
It's really creepy, by the way.
truly think you're going to prison for the rest of your life, I doubt you're going to be smiling in court unless you're legally insane.
Dude, there's a lot of people that smile in court even though they're going to prison for the rest of their lives. Like, that'll smile at somebody. It's a greeting, you know, it's a way to greet people. He can't really talk, so he's not gonna be like, hey, how are you? So he just smiles and nods his head to say hello.
And if
He's not sitting there smiling throughout the proceedings, though. I mean, you could clearly see that.
that's the case, I guess his mind needs rehabilitation in a medical facility.
Well, yeah, if he did kill these people, I mean, you know, most people that kill 4 people, there's probably something wrong with them mentally. I mean, because a normal, reasonable, mentally healthy person wouldn't, you know, do something like this.
However, back to the money. The prosecution wants more money. Apparently, they typically spend about $15,000 per passing away case, but now they want over $135,000.
Okay, so again, this isn't very uncommon in high-profile cases like this for them to cost a lot more money when they're getting news coverage and they're like this, and especially in a case this big where there's 4 people and there's going to be a lot of evidence and a lot of testing and stuff that needs to be done. So
Just to prosecute Bryan. Why do they need so much money? And you know that's just the first installment.
there's 4 people. There's 4 different people in this case. Of course they're going to need more money. That's 4 more times the amount of testing that they have to do as opposed to one person. I mean, do you realize that the cops, they don't do everything in-house? They have to pay for things as part of their, you know, part of their investigation. Hey, this guy has not followed true crime all that long.
Once you give somebody money and they know you're good for it, they're going to come back to you with their hand open wanting more money. That's what beggars do. They never just ask you one time.
What? What? Bro, he's like, this guy is going from somebody I like respected a little to like Betty status at this point in time. Betty Bullhorn status.
That's why you can never give anybody something when they ask in the first place. Because at that point, you become their own personal money tree. Some of you out there know that's true. Others, you're going to have to learn the hard way. $135,000 for starters. That number is going to keep going up as this gets dragged out. Why do they need so much money?
Of course it is.
If they have actual, real, believable evidence, they should.
Go look up how much the Johnny Depp trial cost. Go look. I mean, it depends on the publicity. It depends on a lot of different things as to their budget. So when they're prosecuting people that, you know, the public doesn't really know or pay attention to, of course it's not going to cost as much money.
Shouldn't need any more money than ordinary than any other.
They might need extra security. They might need extra testing done. Like, you don't know. I mean, there's so many different reasons. What are you talking about? Stop.
Their citizen that's ever been arrested for passing aways. Bryan Kohberger is not some super intelligent 200 IQ millionaire with a dream team of lawyers.
He does have, isn't his attorney, I know she's court appointed, but isn't she like one of the like, stop, best attorneys like in the area? Or am I wrong?
He's got public defenders. So why does
that public defender is actually, I thought she was like a highly, highly respected and really good lawyer. Doesn't matter if she's a public defender.
Prosecution need hundreds of thousands of dollars to battle some public defenders? That's not a green flag. That's a red flag.
Oh my God, dude. Oh my God.
The money. What evidence? They really shouldn't be focused on the money. They should be wondering, what evidence do we even have against this guy? They probably know there's not much. There's been discussions of over 50 terabytes of
I'm waiting for this guy to just be like at the end of this video, you're being punked, ha.
data. Meaningless. What is that data? They certainly haven't said, and it wasn't in the arrest affidavit.
Because it doesn't have to be, dude. They didn't mention his computers, his phone. All they did was they what do you call it? They put in a warrant. Stop it for his his phone data as far as from the phone company. Oh my God, I'm gonna kill this dog. Stop. For the phone companies to get his information about where his phone pinged. They still didn't even talk about searching his phone or any of his devices. Stop it. They didn't talk about any of that in the arrest affidavit. So, his phones and everything like that wasn't seized until after that came out. So we don't even know what kind of evidence they found as far as online searches go, or phone calls or text messages or social media accounts or any of that shit yet.
They'll probably end up getting the money from the taxpayers.
Well, that's where most court cases are funded from.
A few months will go by, and then they'll need even more money.
Yeah, they might need more money. That does happen from time to time.
Apparently, Santa Claus might just be in over his head against these female public pretenders. Also, very briefly, to touch on the topic of anonymous sources.
He's like tipping over into conspiracy theory right now. Like, how do you start off a video saying you're all about facts and all this shit when clearly you haven't done any fucking research? Like, now you're just speculating wildly. Ooh, sorry. Hold on.
Once again, because a lot of you in my comments have fallen victim to anonymous sources, let's discuss it one more time.
He's like, after I wildly speculate and sound like a conspiracy theorist, I just want to correct something about anonymous sources.
Anonymous sources cannot be trusted. That's not a legitimate source of information. Some of you are convinced that Bryan Kohberger's sisters knew he did this. According to who? Bryan Kohberger's sisters have not made statements on Bryan. That's an anonymous source and most likely a lie.
Yeah, I'll agree there. Okay, I'll agree there that you shouldn't trust anonymous sources. I don't listen to any of that bullshit when it comes to these cases because I need to see it in a court document. I need to see it in a court document to believe it. I don't believe speculation. I don't believe what you're saying here, which is ridiculous. I mean, I know it's just a theory, and I'm not even saying that Bryan Kohberger is guilty 100% because I don't know. I haven't seen all the evidence, and I do believe in our constitutional rights that you're innocent until proven guilty. But from what I have seen so far, it seems like there's some pretty good evidence on him. I'm waiting for the rest of the evidence to come out, and then, hopefully we'll know. That's why people are getting so mad that there's a gag order on this case. Like the Corey Richins case just recently, that's a case about the girl that poisoned her husband with fentanyl. That case, they just let out so much evidence they televised one of her hearings for, I think it was a bail hearing. And holy shit, I mean, they let out a ton of evidence there. And again, it seems like she's guilty, but we'll have to wait and see until they let out more evidence. At this point in time, she's still innocent until she's proven guilty.
Some of you out there are convinced that Bryan Kohberger bought a K-bar knife off of Amazon 1 month before the passing. Fake news.
Okay, I don't know. I said I heard that too, and I said I didn't know where I heard it from.
According to who, ladies and gentlemen?
I thought it was according to the search. I personally thought it was according to the search that they did at his house and finding some type of receipt. But I said I'm not 100% sure. So I'd have to fact check that. And I don't know. I don't know if that's true.
It's not in the court record. It's not in any police reports. It's an anonymous source that was spoken of on a tabloid program. I keep it factual here at Crime Circus.
Except for when I'm speculating wildly about money and all this other shit.
A lot of other true crime shows and networks, they want your clicks, they want your money, they want your time and attention. I respect you too much to lie to you. So
see, I don't agree with him even saying that he's keeping it factual, because if you're just keeping it factual, then you would discuss only the facts. You wouldn't speculate. You know what I'm saying? You're speculating and giving opinions here. Then that that kind of comes out of the realm of facts. You know, you're not giving facts, you're speculating here and giving us a theory, which you've made clear. I mean, he's made that very clear that he's, you know, theorizing, but at the same time, you can't say that you're dealing with only facts when you're sitting here theorizing.
So, moving on. Also, a couple of you left comments saying that just based on him dumping trash in his neighbor's trash can, that he's guilty. Honestly, I see some of my neighbors dumping trash in other people's yards quite frequently.
I've never seen that. I just have to say, I live in New York, and I don't see. I've seen people dumping trash in, like, for instance, somebody recently, there's a little area behind my house where the wires are, and I've seen a lot of people dump trash over there. I mean, somebody abandoned the boat over there one time, like a little boat, but somebody recently just took, like, they must have cut a tree down or something in their backyard or whatever, the front yard, and they put all the logs on a tarp and they drove it over in this little area over here, took the tarp off and just left it there with all the logs on it. And I'm like, if you're already in the car, like if you already did all the work to put all the branches and everything and the logs in your car, why wouldn't you just drive to the dump? It's not that much further away. Like, why would you do all that work and then dump it illegally somewhere? But I've never seen my neighbors putting their trash in, like, my other neighbor's garbage piles. Like, that's just fucking weird.
What do you think they're
What kind of neighborhood are you living in, dude?
trying to hide? It's suspicious.
I mean, dude, that is very suspicious, though. Why would he be putting garbage in his neighbor's garbage pile? You know what I'm saying? Obviously, he knew he was under some type of surveillance. I mean, he's also forgetting there's other evidence, such as his license plates, right? He switched the license plates. He decides to leave town right after they put out this bolo for a white Hyundai Elantra, which is the same car that he has. And he talks about the car also in another one of these episodes. And I thought whatever he was saying about that was crazy too. But
Certainly. But a lot of trash companies actually have a limit of 2 or 3 bags per trash day. And people pile up trash fast.
What the hell are you talking about, dude? Trash companies? I don't know where. I know it's different everywhere, okay? Because some places they don't have like a garbage collector, so they burn some of their trash, okay? Or some places they have to pay for garbage service, right? But here we have, it's like part of the town. The town comes and collects our garbage. They outsource it to another company, but it's under the town, and they come and collect our garbage. And then there's certain days are for recycle, certain days are for like leaf and stuff, you know, leaves and stuff. And then we have our regular garbage days. So there's never a limitation on what you could put out there. You put out there whatever you want to put out there. I mean, I've never heard of a limit. There's been times we've had like 20 garbage bags out there. It might be different in other states, but again, do you know that? Because it might be different where Bryan Kohberger lives, and there might not be a limit, is what I'm trying to say.
And sometimes there might be rotting meat that smells and will attract wild animals.
He's coming up with like a lot of wild excuses for like all this evidence. It's just like, okay, dude. I mean, I get trying to think of other possibilities, and you know what I'm saying? Like, I get it. I get trying to find other rational explanations for this guy's behavior and for some of the evidence that we do have. Totally. I totally understand that, but some of it's a little over the top, dude. Some of your explanations are a little over the top.
And as rude as it is, they put it in the neighbor's yard because they don't want it in theirs. As for wearing latex gloves, okay, he's probably a germ freak. Trash can be very nasty, and he probably didn't want it touching his skin.
Here's the problem with that, buddy, right? There was a lot of interviews with people who were classmates of his, et cetera, et cetera. We've seen video of him being coming from his house in Idaho, right? I mean, I'm sorry, in Washington, right? Driving across country. We've seen how many videos of him getting pulled over. He's out in the public, and he's not wearing rubber gloves out in the public, but he just happens to be wearing rubber gloves when he's home with his family. But when he's in the car with his dad, he's not wearing rubber gloves. Like, when he gets pulled over randomly in front of the school, he doesn't have rubber gloves on. It's only when he's so he's only a germaphobe when he's at home touching trash at his family's house. I don't know, bro. It's a little bit of a stretch.
No big deal, really. He could be the biggest weirdo in the world. He could even go to sleep with latex gloves on if he wants to. That doesn't mean he committed this crime. And really, it's none of our business what he wants to put on his hands or anywhere.
It is kind of our business. I mean, it's a public case, dude. And that is very strange.
Else on his body either. I've got a lot of questions, thoughts, concerns, and ideas to discuss about Jack Decor, Dylan Mortensen, and so much more. But that's going to have to wait for sometime in the near future, because this video is just about over. In closing, Bryan Kohberger is presumed innocent. Let me know your thoughts down below. This is an open discussion. I don't know one way or the other. Is Bryan guilty or not guilty? You decide. Best viewers and supporters in the world. If you want to support me, consider hitting up my Patreon. I'll leave a link down below. If not, no worries. I still appreciate you just watching. It means a lot. Thank you. Anyways, until next time, remember to stay safe out there because it's a dangerous world.
There's my comment. I'm going to show you guys. Oh, I didn't even realize he actually replied to it. Shit, while I was listening. Should I tell him to come check my video out too? I'm not trying to look, I know he's probably going to think I'm tagging him because I'm trying to build a fucking channel over here or something. But hold on. Let me shut this off because I don't know if you guys could hear me while that's playing that well. I don't even want to. I would like him to see the video just because I couldn't. I just couldn't write all this. There was too much. There was just too much to address. But I couldn't write it all in a comment. He might accuse me of trying to build a channel off his back or something. Like, dude, I mean, as you can see from my channel, I do not do true crime. So I'm legitimately just trying to hear speculation that you said in this video that just isn't true or isn't possible or is incorrect. I mean, the cell phone tower pings, the fact that you think he's a Doordash driver, just all those things kind of have been cleared up. He said nobody proved it, but the proof is kind of in the arrest affidavit. So yeah, I mean, kind of weird, just kind of weird. But let's see what he wrote back to my comment, because I could see he was upset about my other comment. Hold on a second here. They identified and spoke to the Doordash driver doesn't really mean much one way or the other and was written 6 weeks later. They do not specify the exact time of that interaction. I think it was on December 6th that the warrant was issued for Doordash, and within 24 hours, they had us looking for the 2011 white Elantra. So timing is sus. What? I don't even. Let me read what I wrote again, because that kind of doesn't make sense. I said, I have also theorized that BK was the Doordash driver. The one thing that makes me doubt he was, though, and the only evidence there is, which isn't 100% clear, is the arrest affidavit. I said, from my recollection, in the arrest affidavit, they specifically state that they identified the Doordash driver who reported the information. That makes me believe that the Doordash driver voluntarily reached out to law enforcement to report that he or she made a delivery to that residence on that night/morning. There was no other mention of the Doordash driver on the affidavit. Bryan's car is first spotted in the area at 3:29. He makes 3 passes near the home and returns at 4:04. Where he tries to make a 3-point turn and eventually parks and is not seen moving again until 4:20 a.m. This leads me to believe that the car was a different car from the Doordash driver. If his car was seen, then the Doordash driver's car was also seen. I don't see the point in law enforcement hiding the fact that he was the Doordash driver in this document. Later on, they speak about not having any known connections or communication via cell phone between Bryan and the victims. It says has he been? It should have said had. Had he been the Doordash driver, that would have been the connection. At the same time, the Doordash driver has never been specifically cleared. Law enforcement did do a press conference specifically clearing certain individuals, but the DoorDash driver was not one of them. The reason I believe is because they were seemingly only clearing those who were being accused publicly. The DoorDash delivery was an unknown fact at that time, and so there was no reason for them to mention that person since they weren't being accused. There's a small possibility the DoorDash driver could be him still, but it's highly unlikely given the info we do have from law enforcement. And so his response is they identified and spoke to the DoorDash driver. Doesn't really mean much one way or another. And it was written 6 weeks later. I don't understand what the length of time has to do with anything. Like, that's where I'm a little lost. They do not specify the exact time of that interaction. Okay. They don't have to, though. I don't even know what that means anyway, what that has to do with anything. I think it was on December 6th that a warrant was issued for DoorDash, and within 24 hours, they had us looking for the 2011 white Elantra. So the timing is suspect. See, again, this guy, he does often speak on like the timing and of everything. And it's like, dude, yes, as the investigation progresses, things are going to change. Timelines are going to change. You know what I'm saying? So that it's very common to happen in any investigation, that things are going to change over time. I mean, seriously, just go watch this show that I just mentioned earlier called Someone They Knew. Oh, is that it? Or is that the one with Cameron Hall? Now I'm getting so confused. There's this one show I watch on here and I can't remember the name of it. I'm going to have to try to see if I can find it. But they bring you through like investigations and like the details change. Like a lot of things change as the investigation progresses. So I don't really know what the timing has to do with any of this. The fact that they subpoenaed or got a warrant for DoorDash was probably to clear the DoorDash driver, you know, to make sure that he was where he said he was, because guess what? If they see where his next stop was and he was at his next stop within like 2 minutes of that stop, then they know that he wasn't the murderer. Or, you know what I'm saying? They could tell by his stops and the mileage in his car and all the other shit, you know, and they could clear him. I personally think that the DoorDash driver saw this on the news, reached out to law enforcement, or, you know, maybe they saw the bag in the house and they called, you know, that's when they contacted DoorDash. But either way, I just, oh, shit. Wait, what? Oh, that's weird. It says your browser lost connection to your screen share audio. Try sharing your screen. All right. Going on here? My thing's bugging out. Can you guys hear me? So yeah, I just wanted to kind of go over this because I don't necessarily hear just him kind of bringing up some of these points. I hear a lot of people trying to rip apart the arrest affidavit or the probable cause affidavit, whatever way you want to refer to it. And I think it's because they're just so hungry for more information, you know? So it's like they're being so tight-lipped about this case. Or at least he gives this disclaimer. This video contains guesses, speculations, and opinions. Nothing in this video is to be taken as fact. See, but you say that, but then in your video, you're like, I only deal in the facts. So you maybe should take that out then. Don't say that. All people and businesses are presumed innocent and all words are someone else's fantasy. Well, I guess that's just to protect themselves from being sued, because there was a TikToker in this case that was being sued for speculating about, you know, other people in this case. So I guess he feels, and you know, he has to put this little disclaimer out there for that reason. I don't know what the hell is going on with the fucking internet right now. It's like crazy. But maybe another day we'll go over the other video. I just think this is absolutely crazy. speculation right here. I just don't, I'm sorry. I just don't agree with it. I think it's just like ridiculous. It really is. So, no offense to the guy. I think he's a nice guy and everything. And, he's certainly entitled to his opinions and stuff, so I'm not trying to rip the guy apart or say anything bad about him. I actually like the guy. I enjoy his videos. And I actually, as weird as people might think it is, I actually enjoy his little makeup thing that he does with the spiders and the hat and the smoke effect. Like, you know what? You got to stand out on this platform somehow, right? So why not like that, But I don't know if these are really his beliefs or he's just trying to present other evidence. But pretty much since they've arrested Bryan Kohberger, every video, and this guy gets tons of views on his videos. I mean, he's got, I don't know, he's like somewhere in the, shit, I just closed the window. Hold on, let me go back and see. I want to see how many subscribers he has. I mean, he's got a pretty big channel, and it seems to me like ever since they put this out, he's kind of been leaning on the side of like conspiracy and the fact that that Bryan might be innocent. As soon as he heard about this Brent Kopaka guy and all this other stuff, I mean, who knows? It remains to be seen. People go to jail all the time that are wrongly accused. And I'm not saying that it's not possible, but with the little evidence that we do know from the arrest affidavit, I mean, you have a lot of explaining to do. I mean, if he was the Doordash driver, then maybe his case would be stronger. Maybe it would be a stronger case if he actually was the Doordash driver, because it would explain why he was in the area so much prior to the crime scene. To the crime happening. So, but I just don't think that's the case, because I feel like it would have, like, the Doordash driver was mentioned in the arrest affidavit, right? And then they mentioned it in the arrest affidavit. Why not then at that point say that he is the Doordash driver? Why hide that? You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't make sense. Because then, if they hid that fact in the arrest affidavit, right, that would be like a cause for a mistrial, if you think about it, because they're giving out misinformation. So I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, that's like an official court document. I think they want to be as accurate as they possibly can. And the fact that they later discussed that there's no known connection to the victims, at that time, I guess something to that extent kind of leads me to believe that he's not the Doordash driver, because that would have been the connection right there. So, you can't, that's the thing. You can't ignore what it's almost like listening to this guy. He's being very selective in what he wants to believe and not believe. Just like the pings on the phone, like that you're misrepresenting what they're saying there by saying that like the ping wasn't real or it was an error. It wasn't an error. They're telling you that it pinged off there, but when they triangulated his area or his location, he wasn't in the town of Moscow, but his phone could still ping off that tower. So anyway, all right, guys, I am going to end this. I just kind of wanted to go over that, and I want to keep the video just to that. I don't want to, go off on another tangent about something else. But anyway, I probably won't be around this weekend or much of next week, but I'll pop in chats and stuff. I'm sure I'll see most of you guys in chats. I don't want to lose my voice completely, but anyway, hope you guys all have a great weekend, and I'll see you around in the chats. All right. For the second time today, which is crazy. I think I went more live this week more than I have in ages, but I'm signing off. All right. See you guys later.